The trade deadline is almost a month away. With that, we'll look at some outfield targets for the Atlanta Braves. Could they make upgrades elsewhere? Maybe at shortstop, maybe in the starting rotation. I'll answer those questions and many more on this week's Mailbag episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of a Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new and watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button so others can find us here at Locked On Braves and grow this great community that we have here. If you're listening on the audio version, do me a favor, leave me a 5-star review. It does mean a ton to me whenever you do that, and when you let me know that you're an everydayer. I love reading those comments. I try to get to most of them. I know I'd slacked a little bit there during vacation last week, but I try to get to all the comments on YouTube, so thank you so much for leaving those. Today is a mailbag episode. Got 20 questions or so to get to. We'll try to run through those on today's podcast. Before we do, though, this episode of Locked On Braves is brought to you by Booking.com. That's Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any season, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your start or your stay today. And it is a mailbag episode. Looking forward to getting into these questions as we always do, and a lot of really good questions today. I don't have these in order. Some of these are going to be repeated, but I'm just going to go through these as I see them on X. And again, I always send out a post on LockedOn_Braves the afternoon of the day we record this podcast. You respond to that post with your questions to be answered. And the first one coming from S. Denny 73. If Baltimore called and offered Heston Kjerstad for Raisel Iglesias at the deadline, would you do it? This is a great question. And maybe, depending on where you sit on the Braves, if you think that they should be sellers, which they're not going to be and they shouldn't be, then if you're on that side of the fence, it's a no-brainer. You do it. Losing Iglesias, I think, hurts the Braves' chances of winning a World Series this year, and I still think that is the goal and that is a real possibility. So for that reason, I probably say no. But man, that's a tough one to pass up on because you're getting a good outfield prospect that you're going to have years of control over. And while I love Raisel Iglesias, it'd be an opportunity to free up a lot of money that would allow you to do other things. I mean, Iglesias is making $16 million. So it could be one way that you upgrade the outfield, you save a bunch of money, which maybe allows you to do some other things at the deadline, but then it hurts your bullpen in a big way. And I love Iglesias. There's nothing doing this trade would say nothing about my feelings toward Raisel Iglesias. My only inclination of possibly doing this type of trade would be to make room for money because Iglesias makes a ton of money. I see Mass Boo saying, what do you do with the outfield prospect after this year? It's a good question, but I think it's a question you kind of figure out next year. Those things tend to work themselves out. But again, from my vantage point, looking at that deal, it would be more about a way to save some money if the Braves wanted to do that. And there's no real confirmation that they want to do that. But I mean, you'd be getting a player at league minimum, a good player, and you'd be saving a ton of money. Like I said, nearly $16 million, whatever he's owed the rest of this year. That would be my only reason for doing it. Not because I don't like Iglesias, not because I think they need to be trading from an area of strength necessarily. And Joey Milby says, I keep seeing that the Blue Jays are selling Bichette and Vlad Jr. are the big names, but I really like IKF. That's Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Offensively, he is a big upgrade over Arcia, but I'll be honest, I haven't seen him play shortstop much. Can he handle the position? What would a package for him look like? So I would not think the package is big at all for IKF. I don't know that he's an offensive upgrade. If you look at him historically, I know if you just compare the numbers right now, IKF's having a really good year offensively, but that hasn't necessarily been the case historically. And the underlying metrics say that he has overachieved a good bit this year. So I don't necessarily buy into what we've seen from IKF this year. Can he handle the shortstop position? He has good range. He has decent speed, but it's one of the worst arms. It's a second baseman's arm. So, it would be a downgrade for me defensively. And I just don't, it's kind of the same situation with Paul DeJong. I'm not buying into what I've seen offensively from him so far this season. To me, it's more of a lateral move, if anything. So I would like IKF to be an upgrade over Luke Williams, or be an upgrade over that, Zach Short, that utility guy on the bench that can play all over and has a bat that, can come in and make some contact, has some speed as well. But as far as a replacement for Arcia, IKF's not that guy for me. Ryan Hall also asked about Orlando Arcia, said at what point do we make a move at short, either by trade or calling up Alvarez? I'd love to see him, Alvarez, and Gwinnett for the rest of the year, but Arcia is not the answer. I kind of hate to say it. I think Arcia is the answer. And I think for better or worse, at least for the rest of this year, I think Arcia is the guy. And look, I've talked about this on here ad nauseum. I don't know who, unless you're getting Bo Bichette. And look, Bo Bichette, you just take it on the numbers this year, hasn't been great, and it'd be a downgrade defensively. But I've said this a lot on here. If Arcia is batting ninth for you and he's playing Gold Glove defense and everybody else in the lineup is doing what they're supposed to do, I don't worry about the lack of offense from Arcia. The fact that he is playing so poorly offensively and nobody else is really stepping up in front of him makes it look a lot worse. Kind of the same thing with Adam Duvall. When Adam Duvall is playing at his best and he's getting those home runs every now and then and everybody else in the lineup is contributing on a nightly basis like we're accustomed to, you don't really care that Adam Duvall is batting 6th or 7th in your lineup because he's going to run into a couple of home runs a week. So again, I haven't been given an option yet out there for a shortstop that is just a tremendous upgrade that I think the Braves can get, that is going to be that much better than what at least Arcia gives you defensively. So I think Arcia is your guy the rest of the year. I don't think what maybe little upgrade Nacho Alvarez could give you offensively right now is worth what you would lose defensively at the position. So I think just put Arcia in that 9 spot, hope you get something from him, and just hope everybody else in the lineup stays and that Arcia continues to play Gold Glove defense. Chris Mofeld, thoughts on Sean Murphy? Been a disappointment to me most nights. He's been playing better lately. And look, I hate to use excuses for him, but this guy got injured in the first game of the year, missed 2 months. And as a catcher who's going to have, playing time sparingly, you're never going to play more than 2 games in a row, especially with Travis d'Arnaud as your backup catcher. Hard to get in a rhythm, but we have seen him swing better as of late. He's got tremendous power to the pull side. It's just, he's got to be more on time with those pitches in and be able to drive the baseballs. But I'm not worried about Sean Murphy. I bought in huge on him coming into the year. I took him in a couple of fantasy baseball teams. I traded for him in my dynasty league. I'm a big believer in Sean Murphy. I just think the first half of this season, unfortunately, the second half of last year, it's kind of been a throwaway for him because of some injuries. So hopefully he gets back on track the second half of the season, but I'm certainly not giving up on Sean Murphy to this point. Corey Slovic says, is Mike Yastrzemski a reasonable deadline target? He'll have about $3 million left on his contract for this season only. Could probably be extended for outfield depth next year while Ronnie rehabs. I could see him as a strong side platoon. I wouldn't see him as an everyday player. Maybe you bring him in as that platoon partner with Adam Duvall. It's not necessarily the profile that I'm looking for. It's somebody who is going to hit, if you're just strictly starting him against righties, maybe he hits more of 230, 240, but it's not a high average guy. It's not really even a high on base guy. He will give you some power. It's 15 to 20 home run power as an everyday player. So he's not high on my list, but if the price is reasonable and you move him over and put him in a strong side platoon with an Adam Duvall or Ramon Laureano, whoever from the right side, I think that could work because I don't think I wouldn't imagine that he would be that expensive to grab. All right, a lot more questions to get to, a lot more trade questions about the outfield, and also what could this Braves team do with the postseason started today? We'll answer that question and more here next. This episode of Locked On Braves is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities as well, with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival's city. Nobody wants to go to Philadelphia. You know this, but you got to mark these stadiums off your bucket list. It's part of it. You see it behind me on the wall here. I've marked off all the stadiums I've been to. Haven't been to Philadelphia yet because, again, just nobody really wants to go there. But if you have to, make sure you use Booking.com to get there. The right stay can maybe make you a fan of Philadelphia. Hey, I've never been there. Maybe I shouldn't judge it. But if you want to get to Philadelphia or wherever to watch your Braves play this summer, make sure you book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But with the NBA, NHL playoffs over, we get fewer games in the summer times. I love it for me because I'm a baseball fan. So I get baseball all the time. Not really an issue for me. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And one thing they've had on there all year long is Paul Skenes specials right now as he gets ready to pitch against the Braves on Saturday. Paul Skenes to record 3+ strikeouts in the first inning is plus 1,000. Paul Skenes to go 3 up, 3 down in the first inning, plus 140. Does he go 6 up, 6 down, 9 up, 9 down? Does Paul Skenes throw a no-hitter against the Braves? That's plus 12,000. Let's really hope that doesn't happen. They even have one on there for Paul Skenes throwing a perfect game, the number of pitches that he'll throw over 101 miles per hour. They got everything on there. Paul Skenes, his strikeout total as well. They have over-under set at 7.5 for his start on Saturday. Again, you can see all this over on FanDuel.com/lockedon. They got so much more on there for you for Major League Baseball. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You like having sports on your TV in the background all day long. You hear the biggest stories of the day. Well, that's exactly what you get with Locked On Sports Today, which you can find on YouTube or in the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, let's jump back into the questions because we still have a lot to get to. Also want to give a shout out to Mass Boost, Ernest Lewis, The Battery, Scott Tomahawk, Jeffrey Humphreys, Ecuadorman in here with me, Austin Peraz as well. Tyler Sanders says, hey, Jay. Hey, Tyler. MP31, Mike Gregg, love above all, Michael Stansel in here as well. Braves Thrills, thank you so much for joining me here tonight, late night on a Friday for a Mailbag episode. All right, Matt asking the tough question here. If the playoffs started right now and this team was a wild card, what chances would you give this current roster of advancing either past a wild card round or even further? Yes, I know this team could look way different come October, so just humor me with this one. So if you're talking right now, what chances would I give this Braves team of advancing past the wild card round? Well, let's see who they would face. If the season ended today, they would face the San Diego Padres, and they lost a 4-game series at home to the Padres. So I wouldn't feel particularly great about that. You know, even the team behind them, the St. Louis Cardinals, they just lost a series to them in St. Louis. Now, that being said, I still feel really good about the Braves' chances against either of those teams at home in a 3-game wild card series. You line it up with Max Fried, Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez. I feel really good about the Braves' chances. But if you're asking me right now, how good do I feel about this Braves team if the playoffs started right now, how good do I feel about them advancing? Wild card round, I feel pretty good. After that, I don't know. I don't know. I can't know that I don't know that I can honestly tell you I feel that confident. Do I think they can do it? Yes, because I think they have the pitching to get it done. It's just, can I trust this offense to score in different ways in the postseason? And if the home run ball is not there, which seems to come even harder in October, which I think has been part of the struggles for this Braves team the last 2 years, can they score in other ways? And we just haven't seen that consistently enough. We saw it on Friday. They just had the one home run, a solo shot, and we saw that big 5-run inning where they were able to piece some hits together. Now, they're not going to be facing Martin Perez in the postseason. I just don't know that I have enough confidence in the offense to do enough right now to score in the postseason without the home run ball. Could they pitch their way there? Yes. But they just haven't been consistent enough offensively for me to feel really good about their chances of advancing in the postseason. But like Matt said, this could be a very different looking team come October. But if you're asking me postseason starts today, I feel pretty good about them getting past the wild card round. I don't feel great about them going up against the Phillies or Dodgers. And I guess that's what it ultimately comes down to. I just don't trust this offense enough at the moment. Ecuadorman says, hey, Jake, with Kelenic playing so well, you think he gets a new deal in the offseason? If so, what do you think that contract will be? Obviously, did a deep dive on Jared Kelenic earlier in the week. And while I discussed in there have been changes in the profile that back up the improvement that we've seen. A near 30% strikeout rate, a below 6% walk rate. It doesn't necessarily scream to me a guy that is ready to break out or somebody that I'm ready to just throw a deal at. Now, could you buy out the rest of his arbitration years to go ahead and get that guaranteed money, there so you know what you have? Yes. I don't think it happens with Jared Kelenic. I think while these deals have been good and a lot of them team friendly, the one drawback has been it's killing the Braves in the luxury tax because you're paying for that average annual value of a guaranteed deal. Whereas if you're just going year to year through arbitration, you're not having to do that. You're not paying the whole AAV of a guaranteed contract like that. So I don't think Jared Kelenic has shown me quite enough yet to believe he can be that guy. I still need to see more. So I don't think it's going to happen. And I honestly don't know that it should happen with Jared Kelenic. Aegon says, with Harris returning from the injured list, trading for an outfielder and Lariano currently playing well, is Duvall on the team August 1st if he doesn't improve soon? It's a tough question to ask. And again, we talked about Adam Duvall yesterday on the podcast. You want to go back and give that a listen. The thing is, he can still hit lefties. We saw that tonight. He had a double in this game against the lefty in that big 5-run inning. He doesn't need to be starting against righties. I know there's a question about that in here. Large Lar asks, is there any rational reason why Adam Duvall is playing against right-handed pitchers? The only rational reason is just the Braves don't have any better options, which, again, we talked about on Thursday's podcast, and that was before I knew that Ramon Laureano was dealing with an issue. Not that he's particularly great against righties either, but I don't see any rational reason other than the just lack of options why Adam Duvall should be playing against right-handed pitchers. That said, he's still good against lefties, and I think that keeps him on the roster. But I don't feel as confident saying that he'll still be on the roster post-trade deadline. And that all depends on what Alex is able to go out and get, obviously. But if he becomes just a short-sighted platoon player, I think his job could be in jeopardy. But I think because of what he brings to the clubhouse and just how loyal the Braves are to him, I think he'll still be there post-trade deadline. But hopefully he's relegated to, again, a short-side platoon where he is only getting starts and only getting at-bats against left-handed pitching, maybe as a defensive replacement late in the game. But even that hasn't been great lately. E. Goldie says, do you think the offensive struggles in the one-trick pony approach forces AA to rethink some things this offseason? Are we so locked in with the slug-first mindset that there isn't much that can be done? This is a tough question, and I think it's one we're going to talk about a lot this offseason. If the landscape of Major League Baseball has changed, and it feels like it has, this lineup is built on power. There's not a lot of guys up and down this lineup who are just pure hitters. They're just not. I mean, it's Ronald, maybe Riley, and Ozuna with what he's doing. This just isn't a lineup built on, well-rounded is not the right word. Complete maybe is the right word. This isn't a lineup built on complete hitters. It is a lineup built to do one thing at an elite level, and that's crush the baseball. And they've done that. They're still doing that. They're just not getting rewarded for it as much this year. And if the philosophy has changed with the shift rules, maybe teams are aligning them different defensively. That's something that, obviously the front office is going to have to dive into. Then maybe you do have to rethink how you want to structure and build this lineup. Do you need more guys up and down the order that, maybe they don't all have 30 home run potential, maybe not even 20 home run potential, but they're guys that, can put the ball in play a little bit more. They have better bat to ball contact skills. It's more average oriented, and it's not all just built on huge exit velocities. It sounds crazy to say that because you would still think you want a lineup full of guys who just absolutely mash the baseball, but it's not working this year. And again, who knows if the landscape of Major League Baseball is going to change next year. It's in a really hard place because you already have all of these guys locked in for a long time, and this is what you built it around. I just don't know how you can pivot like that with how many guys you have locked up under contract. Dustin Mounts, if you were GM, who would be your top 2 trade targets that are possibly available to go all in on, and what would your packages be for them, taking into consideration financial restrictions the Braves possibly face with a luxury tax? That last part is difficult because, again, we're assuming they don't want to go over that third luxury tax threshold. My number one target is going to be in the thumbnail of this podcast is Jesse Winker, just because he's not going to cost you a lot prospect-wise. But I think he is the type of player I'm talking about where he's going to get on base. He's shown a little bit of speed this year, left-handed side. His profile is working, the game. If he just does what he's done so far with the Nationals this year, I think you stick him at the top of the Braves lineup, although I know Kelenich's doing good there now, so maybe that's not as much of a need. But I think for me personally, at the trade deadline, I'm looking for somebody with a different profile than what this Braves lineup currently has. I just think you have to find a guy or two that can do things differently, that can get on base, take their walks, punch the ball here or there, and steal some bases. And Jesse Winker has done that this season for the Nationals. So he's my number one target. I honestly think they need to go get 2 bats. And I almost think that's more of a priority over getting a bat and a pitcher. I would love to get Jack Flaherty, but that is one where maybe you face the luxury tax issues. Eric Fetty could be one from the White Sox as well. I would love to see them get another pitcher like that. And, an outfielder with the profile that I mentioned earlier. All right, we got several more questions, a lot more questions still to get to, and we don't have a lot of time left. So I'm going to try to speed through the rest of these. Some of these are going to be repeat, but we're looking at some more trade targets for the outfield. And hopefully we'll briefly touch on the pitching matchup for Saturday between Paul Skenes and Max Fried. We'll get into all of that here next. Take the stress out of buying tickets when you use GameTime for your next event. GameTime is the fast and easy way to buy all tickets for sports, music, comedy, theater, events near you. And GameTime is now the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Take it from me, I've only used GameTime to buy my last several tickets to go to Braves games. Safe, secure, very easy to use. 2 features in there I talk about all the time that I just absolutely love. The all-in upfront prices. You know what you're paying. No hidden fees coming out when you go to checkout and the price just balloons on you. You know what you're paying, and you get the view from your seat. So you know what it's going to look like before you get to the ballpark. But whatever if it's baseball, concerts, theaters, whatever it may be, you can get all that on Game Time. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll get the best price every time. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDO or MLB, ONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, we do have several more questions to get to. Dustin Mount says, is the Fletcher pitching experiment and him not being on the Braves bench instead of Short or Williams due to the gambling investigation, or is it due to the option service time issue? I have no inside knowledge of this. I have to believe it's because of the gambling investigation that's ongoing and just not wanting to bring that noise up at the major league level. Because otherwise, I don't know why David Fletcher, I think he would get a shot with the struggles Orlando Arcia has. He is the one guy. He can play good defense. It's not necessarily the arm for shortstop, but I think he'd be fine defensively. And he is a guy that gives you that different profile who can put the bat on the ball. I'm not saying it's great what you have in David Fletcher, but I just feel like it would make sense over those other guys they've had. So again, don't have any inside knowledge of this, but it just seems pretty obvious. They are just letting Fletcher kind of rot in the minor leagues until they figure out what's going on with this gambling investigation. Matt Olson is the GOAT. Is there a person that we can trade for to go platoon either Arcia or Duvall? I've heard names like Lane Thomas, Jesse Winker, Taylor Ward, and Luis Rengifo. Do you think those people can be good for us? Talked about Jesse Winker already. I like Lane Thomas. He'd be more of an everyday guy, somebody that brings a speed, power profile. I like Taylor Ward. I like Luis Rengifo because he's somebody that can play all over for. So I like all of those guys. I think they all would make the Braves better. Caleb Hudgens, if you had to choose from this list for an outfielder, who would you choose, and what do you think the price would be in terms of prospects on the player you choose? Randy Arozarena, Brent Rooker, Taylor Ward, Lane Thomas. So if I just had to pick one of those, the one that I want the most, it would probably be Lane Thomas. Like I mentioned, he brings you a little bit more of that speed, power profile. It's probably going to cost you one of your better pitchers. I think you could get away with getting him without giving up AJ Smith-Shaw or Hurston Waldrop or Spencer Schwellenbach, but I don't know. It may cost you one of those. I didn't have a chance to look it up, how much control he has left, but I do like Lane Thomas. I think he's maybe a bit overrated, but just that power speed combo that he gives you, I would certainly take that. I know there's a lot of questions about Brent Rooker. He is a DH only. The Braves have their DH. I do like Taylor Ward, but he just has some injury issues. And I like Randy Arozarena. I would have said the same things I said about Lane Thomas, but he's really struggled this season. And so I think, I know Lane Thomas has been injured this year as well, but it probably would come down to Arozarena and Lane Thomas for me. And I think Lane Thomas might not be as expensive as Randy Arozarena would be. Will Mangum says, could Esteury Ruiz be a decent target at the deadline? 67 stolen bases last year, average contact guy. It would be pretty hilarious if the guy that the A's really wanted, and that Sean Murphy, William Contreras trade, that they all of a sudden just traded him to the Braves. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ruiz is probably stuck in Oakland, and I don't know that he'd be a great fit for the Braves either way. Chris Lewis, why is Duvall still in the lineup? Time to send him down and give the younger guys a shot. Really over it at this point, at least with Arcia, you get the top-tier defense. Again, we talked a lot about Duvall yesterday. I don't really understand it either. He should be a short side platoon player only at this point. Colton Chalker definitely need an outfield to at least platoon with Duvall to get better plate appearances in that spot. Do you think there's anyone in the farm system the Braves could call up, or do you see the Braves making a trade to get someone? The guys in the farm system, they're not necessarily top prospects, but Eli White, JP Martinez would be two guys that maybe you give a chance up there. But the options aren't great. I think it's more likely they go and trade for an outfielder or two. Caden Hurd, with Harper and Schwarber down for Philly, this is our chance to grab a division lead. Should we go get Lane Thomas to fill the outfield? Would love to. The thing with the National League is the Nationals are in the race, with the extra wild card spots. Pretty much every National League team that's hovering around 500, they're still in the race. So I don't know that you can do that deal now if they did want to trade Lane Thomas, but I'd love to get him. Stephen Buchanan, and as far as Schwarber and Harper being down, this is the time for the Braves to to make a run. They got series coming up against them at home. We'll see how that goes. And Harper and Schwarber will miss that series. So it's certainly an opportunity, but I still think that Phillies team is going to be just fine with that pitching staff they have. Stephen Buchanan, with Arcia struggling, why not give Fletcher a shot at short? We kind of already covered that. I think our Fletcher's just in purgatory right now until the gambling investigation is over. Jay Cho, here's an honest and real question for you. Do the Braves have what it takes to go deep in the postseason? In my opinion, they need another all-star caliber outfield bat, another shortstop, and either a playoff starter or a big bullpen arm, depending on Lopez. Kind of already talked about this. I do think they have what it takes to go deep in the postseason because of the starting rotation. I'll agree with the part where I think they need, I don't even think it needs to be an all-star caliber bat. I think they need a different type of outfield bat. I think they need somebody who, can put the bat on the ball, is more of a contact-oriented, get on base, has some speed type of batter. I think they need somebody else like that in the lineup, and I think they can be just fine. So I don't even think it needs to be everything you said there, Jay. I think it's really just getting a dependable outfield bat that can do some things differently for you to help this offense score in different ways. All right, we didn't have much or any time to talk about Paul Skenes versus Freeds, but me and Grant McCauley did that on the Locked On Braves postcast, which you can get in your Locked On Braves podcast feed or in Locked On Sports Atlanta. So go listen to the postcast, me and Grant McCauley, to get set for that big matchup on Saturday. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.